All right, let's talk about the next unit, which is the rhetorical analysis. So in composition one, you start with the narrative essay, the literacy narrative, because it's about you. Gives you an opportunity to think about your own literacy journey, your journey in reading and writing, and get some long form writing done. So if you haven't done writing in a while, you kind of get your feet wet again. Now you're going to switch to analysis of a text based on the author's use of rhetoric, the rhetorical techniques. So there is a foundational four of rhetorical technique. So you're looking at the author's purpose, their audience, their credibility, and their use of logical and emotional appeals. So you're going to look at a commencement address given by David McCullough Jr. called "You're Not Special," and you're going to break it down. It's a little easier to think about a commencement address because there's a purpose for those types of speeches, right? Why does someone give a speech? But you're going to have to, at a commencement, at a graduation, like what's the purpose? But you have to read his speech. You're also going to view it and think about what, though, was his purpose in the actual speech that he gave. How credible is he? Was he to give that commencement address to talk about the things that he talks about? Who is his audience? That's why I'm giving you a speech, because you can think about the people that would be in the audience for a commencement address. But who did he have in mind when he was putting that speech together? Because the purpose is to inform, to persuade, to entertain. And sometimes it's all three. But you also have to pick what the dominant purpose was. So you'll listen to the speech, you'll read the speech. Is he being entertaining? Is he informing? Is he persuading? And in what ways? And then logical and emotional appeals. How does he appeal to logic? Does he give facts, statistics? And then emotional appeals. Does he use loaded words? Does he use personal anecdotes? How does he try to elicit or evoke certain emotions from his listeners, from his readers? Humor is an emotional appeal. One thing to think about is if you are trying to convince someone to think something or do something they don't want to do, is humor sometimes a good way to make somebody swallow a bitter pill? Is it a way to establish rapport, relatability, likability? Think about the stereotypical example of a car salesman or car salesperson, right? So they might be your best friend when you're on the lot because you're a potential sale. And so their purpose is to sell you a car, to persuade you to buy a car. And if you've ever bought a car, it's not as simple as wanting to buy a car. If you're on that lot, you are obviously seriously considering it, but they want to get the best deal for their company, for themselves. You want to get the best deal for you, and that's where that essential conflict comes from, that conflict of purposes. But if you're a car salesperson, your purpose is to sell that car for the highest profit for you, your percentage, and for your company, your car dealership. Your audience is the customer who's on the lot. Your logical appeals, what does the car have? Your emotion, like what's the price, the pricing, the options for the vehicle. And then they're also using emotional appeals. So they're probably not going to try to make you cry. They're probably not going to try to anger you. What they're going to try to do is think, this is a nice guy, or this is a nice woman. They're not trying to take advantage of me. They're just trying to help me out. So they're being relatable. Maybe they tell a personal story. Maybe they tell you about how their kid just started college, trying to, this person needs the money. Oh, they're nice. And that doesn't mean all of it has to be conscious. So a lot of what happens in a persuasive speech, people are trying to manipulate below the surface so that you have a feeling, but you're not really thinking about that feeling or what that feeling is doing to you or making you want to do. It might be just making you feel good about the money that you're going to spend. And you're not going to argue now about some detail about the payments. But you can't really articulate in your head why, but you just feel like, I'm okay with that. And that's the whole goal, right? So, purpose, audience, credibility. Didn't even talk about that for the car salesperson. How do they demonstrate their knowledge? Are they just reading off the sticker, or are they rattling off information about this car as if they know it? They've done their homework. They can tell you the ins and outs, and they seem knowledgeable. Maybe they tell you how long they've been working at that dealership. Maybe they tell you that they own one of the cars, the car that you're actually looking at. They drive it every day. It's a great, reliable vehicle, stuff like that. So anyway, not to get overly verbose about it, but that's what you're going to bring to your analysis of David McCullough Jr.'s speech. And then you're going to write an essay breaking it down for purpose, audience, logical and emotional appeals, credibility, and then the sophisticated and stylish 30, which you probably have not heard of these things, but I'm sure you've heard at least of rhetorical question, hypophora, anaphora, stuff like that. You'll see in the handout, and that's stuff that goes on at the sentence level that a lot of times is just for emphasizing the main idea. So how does McCullough Jr. emphasize certain points he's making at the sentence level by these rhetorical flourishes that he does that you'll be able to see? Like, I can give you an example. You could just go down through the text looking for question marks. And there are only two rhetorical techniques that deal with questions. One is a rhetorical question. That's where an author or a speaker states a question and the answer is implied, understood. The other is they ask the question and they answer it, and that's hypophora. And there are reasons behind it. And you'll see on the handout, it explains why. And then you can try to work that stuff into your analysis, because that's really what you're doing. You're picking apart someone else's speech or text to see how it works. The best analogy I can give, it's kind of like taking an engine apart to see how it works. I mean, you couldn't do that nowadays because they're basically like computers, but back in the day, if you have an older car, you could take it apart, see how the different pieces work together, put the engine, you have better understanding of how that engine works. You're going to take apart a published, polished, professional piece of writing, David McCullough Jr.'s speech, that was republished in Time magazine, so I would say that would be indication that it is a good piece of writing. It went viral on the internet back when. If people still use the word viral, I don't know. But a lot of people saw it, were interested in it. He turned it into a book, just a speech, and then people came to him and said, can you expand it, do this, that, we'd like to publish it. So, but anyway, can you take that apart and learn something from it that you could then internalize for your own writing and maybe use that as like a goalpost for stretching yourself a little bit as a writer? Because that's the goal of the class, right? Learn to be a better writer. You did the literacy narrative, started thinking about your literacy journey. Now we're going to do a rhetorical analysis. You're going to break down another person's piece of writing to try to learn some tricks and tips, try to work them into your own. You could try them in your own rhetorical analysis essay. And then where are we headed? To a research paper. But it's an autoethnography and going in line with some of the things that we've been doing in Composition 1. It's about you. So we'll talk about that once we get through this unit, but I look forward to helping you along the way with your rhetorical analysis. So if you hit a roadblock and you're looking through the handout and you're looking at the speech and you're like, I'm not really getting this, raise your hand. Send me an email. In an asynchronous class, not bothering me at all by raising your hand. It would just be like if we were in a face-to-face classroom and I'm right there, and you're thinking to yourself, I don't really know what is happening right now. And the hand goes up, and you can just ask a question, and I could answer it. Obviously, asynchronous online classes are beneficial because you can, keep your time and do things when you have the time. But what it really eliminates is the ability for you to ask questions in real time, or have me explain something, not just in a video, but look at the class, realize I might need to restate this in a different way, give different examples, things that are just good pedagogy, multiple representations of content, if you don't really get an opportunity to do on the fly. But anyway, I look forward to reading your work, and let's have a good unit.